welcome back to All Texas Football, the Friday afternoon live stream, changing up the lineup a little bit. I am Jeff Howe, joined by Bobby Burton and lifetime Longhorn 2005 national champion Marcus Myers. The Friday afternoon live stream brought to you by Garage Beer. Tell you more about Garage Beer and our sponsors here a little later in the show. First off, Bobby, how's your Friday?
It's going well. Had some lunch with the lovely wife, had a few phone calls to make. Talked to Jerry while he's on the road, going through now. I think he's currently at Jacksonville Mandarin High School practice. That's the former high school, obviously, of Jamie French, the former Longhorn wide receiver. So just making it a fun Friday. How about you, Jeff?
I'm doing well. I've got a sick kid at home, but we're making it work. I'm sure Jerry's hitting all the Chick-fil-A's and beef jerky stops he can while he's on the road, pretty much between here and the Atlantic Ocean. He's at all of them. Marcus, how's your early start to the Mother's Day weekend, I guess? How's your Friday going?
Yeah, man, so far so good. You know, I put in the chat this morning, I was coming off of getting to see my cousin graduate yesterday. So congrats to Erin McCormick. She is now a UT alum. She's looking at doing law school, though. So I was joking with her dad at dinner last night that the Bills aren't likely stopping anytime soon. So all is well. And like you mentioned, we certainly have Mother's Day coming up. So happy Mother's Day to Mrs. Burton. And for anybody that the weekend may be tough for, sending thoughts and prayers your way as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, chat, line it up. Well, questions, comments, concerns, grievances, congratulations, whatever you got, line it up. We'll get to it throughout the duration of the show. Super chats, as always, jump to the front of the line. And Bobby, let's go ahead and start with the question, because Matt Schnell asked, how successful do you think Chris Jackson at Texas will be with their top three anointed wide receiver recruits? Jerry Hamilton did report over on TexasFootball.com today. Coaches are out on the road. A lot of recruiting activity going on right now. A little bit of a shift in direction in terms of one local prospect on the wide receiver front.
Yeah, Pflugerville's Trey Moore in Texas. Long thought to be a guy that Texas would be pursuing, and Texas thinks he's good enough to play for him. I think that the NIL level is not going to match, however. I think Trey Moore wants a more one or two high-level NIL offer and is probably more slotted towards a three if he were two or three if he were to be at Texas. And so Jerry reported that the two sides have amicably parted. There's no animosity or anything like that. His dad's a pastor here in the Austin area. So that is going to happen. So Mark Schnell asked this question, which is, who are the top three? Well, if you're unfamiliar with Texas football recruiting right now, there are three that kind of stand out. And that's before the coaches come back from these final visits in the spring to different high schools. But it's Easton Royal out of New Orleans, Brother Martin. He's currently committed to Texas, but LSU and Florida are giving it hell, trying to sign him. But he's committed to Texas. He's run a 10.15 100 meter at 5'11 and a half and 200 pounds. And he catches the football with his hands. I mean, he is a competitive catch guy. Another guy that they're after is Monshawn Sells, who is the 1 or 2 ranked receiver. Whatever you rank Easton Royal, Monshawn Sells is on the flip side of that. They're both 1 or 2 in the nation. He's out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And as Jerry and Hank have been reporting for the better part of 2 weeks, Sales is really interested in Texas, is going to take a visit in the month of June. It looks like Indiana, Ohio State, and potentially LSU might also be involved. We'll see where that goes. And then the third, and not necessarily third ranked in Texas's eyes, but who they think is possibly the best receiver in the state of Texas, is Bryson Thrower out of North Forney High School in the Metroplex. Texas really, really likes him. Chris Jackson's been on him from get-go, and they see him maybe as underranked nationally, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so where do I think Texas sits? I think it's unlikely that they get Sales and Royal. I think it's likely that they get one of those two, and then they hope like heck they get Thrower. That's the most likely scenario, in my opinion. And I don't know what else to say other than that. I think that Longhorns have a chance here to domino in recruiting, but only 2 of them are needed, in my opinion. You don't. All 3 would be unheard of.
Yeah, no doubt. Marcus, on the Trey Moore front, kid from Weiss, local product. Anything you want to add just in terms of where his recruitment is, or just whatever you got on Trey?
No, I think Bobby covered it well. Like I said, I've had the pleasure of getting to attend his father's church, and so I think we've shared on here before. Derek Johnson, Stevie Lee, and some other guys. We all go there, and so secretly, of course, we've all been kind of hoping and rooting that we could get to see Trey don the burnt orange, and I think he has a great family, and ultimately, based on kind of what Jerry's reporting, certainly just wants the opportunity to kind of go somewhere and be viewed as more of a number 1, 2 type in that offense. And the way it sounds, maybe Texas has them a little bit slotted differently. Certainly, from what Bobby just shared about kind of the targets that they're after are, ones that will maybe command a higher, dollar. And it just kind of goes back to the conversation we've, been having, whether it's, what they're going to shift to in the high school recruiting ranks, as well as how they've, taken an approach to the transfer portal. To some degree, everybody has a number, and for it to work for any player at any position, both the player and the staff have to come to agreement. It just sounds like maybe they couldn't get there. So certainly wish them the best. And I mean, who knows? Again, the way the portal works, maybe we look up in a year or 2 and it's somebody that would maybe be one to come back closer to home. I think he just dropped like a top 3, and it was Miami, Washington, and Ohio State. So sounds like he's looking at getting pretty far from home.
Bobby, wide receiver is one of the positions that, coming out of the 26 cycle and knowing how the 25 roster was constructed. And I think, Sark has made some comments that said, hey, maybe he hasn't come out and said it, but that maybe Texas put too much money into high school wide receivers and they've redistributed some things. And I was wondering, okay, how are they going to attack it, especially knowing going into the cycle, they already had Easton Royal in the fold. And, I think one thing, Bobby, that for Sark and Brandon Harris and the crew over there to try to figure out, okay, is what is the sweet spot at some of these positions between how much money you're going to allocate to high school recruits, how much you're going to allocate to the portal, and receivers, one where you probably don't want to overdo it on the high school recruiting and keep some powder dry for the portal. But at the same time, a guy like Easton Royal's got the potential to come in and help you right away. And if you can get a guy like that, an impact player at an impact position, the juice is worth the squeeze. So where is that sweet spot, Bobby? And I maybe the better question is, does a sweet spot exist?
It does. I think it does. And I think they've got to find it. Here's what I would say to you, and what I've been told from a Texas perspective. Texas is willing to be extraordinarily competitive in NIL at the high school level. Mm-hmm. No questions asked, but for the right players.
Yes.
That's the key. So if they think someone can play early, not necessarily on the line of scrimmage, but at skill positions, then they're going to be very, very competitive. If they don't, they probably won't be competitive enough. And I think that's fair. I mean, I think that kind of gives you a sense of what Texas is thinking. I will say this, Easton Royal and Monshon Sales, that's a level of receiver that Texas hasn't really recruited out of high school before. They would be the 2 highest receivers ranked that Texas has signed under Steve Sarkisian. Now, Cam Coleman, notwithstanding, but he was a portal guy, right?
Yeah.
But both of those guys are ranked higher than what Xavier Worthy was ranked, higher than what Adonai Mitchell was ranked, higher than Jordan Whittington, higher than Ryan Wingo, higher than Kalik Lockett, Michael Terry, James, anybody and everybody. These 2 guys are top 5 players in the country. To think that there's a reason they're going to command that. And so I feel like they've got to decide. DeCorian Moore is their proxy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like people are mentioning, what about DeCorian Moore? He's in that category. And he played as a true freshman until he got injured. And that's where those guys fit. And so, and we all know that not every player that is ranked highly actually ends up as good as they're ranked. Okay, nobody's saying that, but those two, I think, people feel are different because not only do they have great ball skills, they've got legitimate speed. I mean, Monshon Sales is in the state 100-meter finals, and he's 6'5".
Yeah, I heard Hank say that this morning. Yeah. I was like, I thought he was 6'3" all this time.
Yeah. And then Easton Royal has run. He's 5'11". He's Devin Duvernay's size, thickness, all that. And he's faster. And he's that size at 17. And my point here is that certain guys, the juice is worth the squeeze. So that's the happy median, Jeff, that we talk about. Where's the midpoint?
Yeah. Marcus, we talk about those positions. I talk about the premium positions, and you can include wide receiver. Some people call it a premium position. Some people don't. Corner's another one. Some people do. Some people don't. But I look at those three positions where you're talking about pass rusher, offensive tackle, and quarterback. And I keep driving this point home, Marcus, because I hope people realize how good of a job this staff has done at recruiting and developing those positions. Because think about it. If Texas had to go in the open market in this last portal cycle and get somebody where you've got a Trevor Gooseby that you had in-house, or a Colin Simmons that you had in-house, or an Arch Manning that you had in-house, that's taken, okay, if you had to go get a quarterback, maybe you could have gone and got a Sam Levitt or Darian Mensah, fill-in-the-blank quarterback. Yeah. But that probably means, hey, yeah, you would have gotten Cam Coleman. You could have done that. But you're probably not getting Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers.
Right.
And a Michael Masoon. It's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul at that point. So those premium positions, Marcus, those developmental positions, can you get a Kelvin Banks that's ready to Bobby's point about special players? Can you get a Kelvin Banks that's ready to roll and be a starter at tackle from day one? Yeah, absolutely. But to me, the key in all this is, can you keep those positions that are going to be extremely expensive in the transfer portal? Can you keep developing those guys in-house so that you don't have to go get it on the open market? You can allocate your resources elsewhere.
Yeah, of course. To your point, Jeff, I think I saw a report the other day that Seton went for like $4 million, right? And that might have been on the light end. And so, when you have situations like that where you do have to go out and get it, all right, where are you left deficient elsewhere? What type of commitment are you then having to make to where it's also making some of your high school recruitments a little more challenging? You have to make even more decisions there. And then even as you're planning for the next year, right? Like, this stuff doesn't stop. So they're going to have to be, kind of actively monitoring, as the season, moves on. All right, where are different guys being slotted? How many guys are we looking at having to lose and having to replace again next year? And all of that comes down to how you choose to allocate your funds, right? And so, to your point, Jeff, that's something that, I've tried to kind of harp on. I know we've talked about it on some of the Wednesday night shows as well, that maintaining those cornerstones within your program that were homegrown, and even though you had to pay to retain them, it's still, kind of like the age-old adage, it's cheaper to keep her, right? Like, it's cheaper to be able to hold on to guys at those premium spots than have to go out on the market, just as you mentioned, and try to reel them in.
Just ask Florida. I mean, Florida held on to Jaden Ball and Jaden Woods at running back, where they had maybe one of the top 5 running backs in the country that Texas certainly would have went after had he gone in the portal. And then Jaden Woods, the defensive end, the pass rush guy, that was the other position you mentioned, Jeff. And they actually kept him after he went in the portal, because it is oftentimes cheaper to keep her. I think once you get him on campus. I mean, Trevor Gooseby could have commanded and would have commanded more had he gone on the open market. There's no doubt in my mind. And so at the same time, if a young man's having a good time and he's well compensated, Trevor Gooseby's he ain't going to have to worry about paying for McDonald's, with his NIL deal. There is a idea that you can keep those guys on your roster. And that's what I think Texas Tech and Texas A&M are trying to do right now in recruiting. They're trying to do that in the high school level in hopes that they keep them 2 to 3 years down the road and trying to make that investment there. Because even though they did do well in the portal, they didn't go over the top in the portal like LSU did. I mean, LSU, and even Texas was heavy in the portal financially.
No doubt. Josie and Josh Manning are in the chat, so that means we're talking offensive line. Bobby Sark did say on the Pivot podcast, he alluded to, offensive line is one of those positions where you need to be careful where you're spending your money. But man, if you can get Kelvin Banks, you can tell me, hey, you get a walk-in starter at left tackle who's going to leave in 3 years and be a top 10 pick. I'll pay whatever it takes to get that guy in the program. Like you said, it's a case-by-case basis with the special players.
Well, yeah, and would Kelvin Banks have started today if he walked in? If he was a true freshman? I don't think he would have over Trevor Goosby.
Yeah, your position needs at the time were different.
Fundamental.
Rev share wasn't even factored in yet, right? So and I mean, even the scenario and how we got him, it just the timing of it is completely different. So yeah, to Bobby's point, a Kelvin Banks today might not want to come to Texas this year because he knows the odds of him starting at left tackle are pretty slim.
Yeah, the odds. I don't think he would start at left tackle.
Right.
It's not even so much like. Now, he would as a senior in college. I'm talking about when he was a senior in high school, going up at what is now a redshirt junior in Trevor Goosby. My point on all of it, though, for folks, is that there are positions, and this is what I think Jeff was getting at, that are more developmental, and yet those players don't want to take developmental money.
Correct.
They want, instead of, oh, well, we'll give you $250,000 to sit on the bench for 2 years. Oh, no, I want $500,000 or $750,000 to sit on the bench for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so you have to, if you're Steve Sarkisian, you have to really think about, okay, how much is it going to cost for me to put this guy in the oven and bake him for a couple of years? And then what am I going to end up with? And how much money is lost in that shuffle? How much of it is sitting on the bench or sitting on the sideline? And what's the acceptable amount and what's not?
Yep.
And that's what it is.
All right, good discussion, guys. We'll get back to it here in just a minute. But Bobby, let's take a quick time out and thank our lead sponsor for the Friday afternoon live stream, and that's Garage Beer.
Oh, yeah. Garage Beer, light and lime with 95 calories, 3 grams carbs, and only 4% ABV. It is beer-flavored beer. Beer the way it should be, cold, crisp, easy. That's Garage Beer, no gimmicks. There's Garage Beer, light and lime. It is, again, beer-flavored beer. Get it at your local HB, Total Wine, wherever you buy your beer.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. We'll get to some questions here in just a second, but I do want to mention, kind of giving everybody something to look forward to next week. TV upfronts for the networks are next week. So the big monster games on the schedule, we'll start getting kickoff times for those. Probably the OU kickoff time will be set. The Ohio State kickoff is going to be one that's going to be set. Texas, thank everybody. Thank your lucky stars. Texas is done dealing with Fox, so it's all in the ESPN, ABC family. Bobby, I would be willing to bet a hefty sum that Texas Ohio State will be at night. I don't use the word shocked much anymore. I'll be shocked if that's not a night game when that gets announced next week.
I will be stunned as well. It's got to be a night game, DKR. I mean, first of all, can you imagine second weekend in September at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Holy cow.
Yeah.
Or 11, and it's just getting for my health, I want it to be a night game. I'll just put it that way, because I don't want to pass out at 3:30 when it's 110 and the field's 160 or whatever it'll be on those. But I would agree with Jeff. Marcus, you agree with him? Like 99%, sure that's a night game.
I'm over here trying to peek at the schedule for that week to see if there's even anything else that would like remotely compete. And I mean, the closest you got OU Michigan, that's probably a 2:30 kick. And it's in Ann Arbor. So honestly,
that'll be
11 a.m.
their game. That could be that 11 a.m. game.
Yeah, that could be the big noon game for them. Yeah. Everything else, I mean, there's nothing else I see on the calendar that day that could even approach it. So I'm with Jeff. I would be very shocked as well if that's not a night game.
Yeah, look, you can talk about whatever NBC would have on prime time with their Big Ten game. If I'm if I'm ESPN, I say bring it on. Like good luck going up against Texas, Ohio State in prime time.
I don't see anything else, man. Yeah, the closest is that OU Michigan game.
No. All right, guys, let's get to some questions. Mike Schnell with another one says, who will be the second running back taken in 2027 by Texas? Bobby, this is fascinating because you got Noah Roberts in the boat, big-time national recruit. From an NIL standpoint, you're probably going maybe in another direction other than like a legit blue chip back. Not to say they wouldn't take one if one wanted to come, but this is another one of those decisions that maybe Jabbar Jaloop does some really in-depth evaluating, trying to figure out what works best for the roster makeup.
So I talked to somebody about this actually, and it's a little nuanced, new information.
Okay.
And the reality of it is you're right. It would have to be the right for Texas to go big on the high school ranks, because you have to remember they just spent big on 2 running backs that are going to graduate this year.
Right.
In Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers. So they actually have room on the roster for 2 that are that plus level and NIL. Noah Roberts clearly is one of those. Now, do they go again to the portal for that second one? Or is there a guy out there like a Landon Williams-Callis that might be worth that dice roll?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I will say this. I think some of that depends on Derek Cooper and how well he plays. So if as long as Landon Williams-Callis doesn't commit in the summertime, Texas will have the time to understand and see what they have and what they really, really have in Derek Cooper, because the early returns on him are outstanding. But we all know early returns aren't, what happened second Saturday in October in the Cotton Bowl. So, but if Texas gets past that and Williams-Callis hasn't committed by that time, things could change. But otherwise, I expect no offense to a Jet Walker, but a Jet Walker type to be the second.
Good stuff, Bobby. Good to get an update on that. Marcus, I'll throw this one to you. Nathaniel asked, who do you see winning out at left guard in starting week 1? This is one of those deals, Marcus, coming out of spring ball. Like, I know Lawrence Seymour's probably everybody's got him penciled in, but I at least want, whether it's Jaden Chapman or Jordan Coleman, whoever it is, I want somebody to make Lawrence Seymour work for that job.
Yeah, I was thinking Coleman, just because he was having such positive returns from spring and he's gotten some of the reps that Seymour hasn't been able to take. And certainly you want Seymour to factor in heavily. I just don't know, is he far enough along by week 1, or are you just comfortable giving it a shot come week 1 because of the opponent, right? Like, kind of whoever you start there, I don't think is one that gives you, too much cause for concern when it comes to the actual, putting the game or anything in any kind of jeopardy. But, do you give, one of them, most of the reps, and then, the other that, you have penciled in there, the bulk of the remainder. So I think if I had to, maybe guess as of today, or even just maybe basing it off where the money flows, right? If they brought Cole or Seymour in for a reason, obviously. So you would think that, he's certainly going to factor in heavily, but a lot of that's going to be, how well does he take to the offense this summer? How much of it does it seem like he's picking up? And then, what camp looks like. So if I had to place a chip somewhere today, I'm gonna probably go ahead and go with Coleman, but I suspect that pretty quickly, maybe even, by end of first quarter of that first game, right, they're going to be one to take a good long look at Seymour in live game action.
Thoughts, Bobby?
Oh, I think look, Jordan Coleman is your backup left tackle right now. He's probably the 4th tackle, though, if Andre Kojo returns healthy. So do you push him inside and make him a starter at left guard? I think more likely it's Lawrence Seymour and Jaden Chapman to fight it out. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Chapman finished spring camp ahead of Dylan Sikorsky. And I also think Dylan Sikorsky is, given that Jackson Christian was injured, is going to get a lot of run at backup center.
Yeah.
So my actual thought is day one starter this fall is either Jaden Chapman or Lawrence Seymour. Those are the two for me. Coleman, though, to your point, Marcus, out of all of those, I think he has more NFL potential, be it at guard or by the way.
Right.
We'll see how it all plays out. I mean, the one thing that, I love Josie because he just won't give it up. If we have more interior OL problems again this year, I swear, man, that's you're not alone in that feeling, Joe, by the way. So don't forget that. But that's the thought process for me is, Seymour and Chapman kind of going tete-a-tete in fall camp and, winner take all. Because I also say this, you mentioned, they could come in the first quarter or, the thing was Flood doesn't really rotate that much.
No, that's fair.
And so, do you really want to rotate the week before Ohio State? Now, if you had an off week or, you're up by 35 or something, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
The only way I would do it is if it's so close that there really is no drop off, and maybe you're just trying to figure out which one works better. But Bobby, I think you mentioned it during spring ball. The thing with Jaden Chapman, he's just got to be healthy. I mean, he just hadn't been healthy in a while. So, I mean, we really don't know what Jaden Chapman brings to the table. Good O-line discussion. I'm always up for some O-line talk, as everybody knows. We'll get back to it here in just a minute, but right now I want to thank another one of our sponsors and let everybody know that this edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. And look, the calendar's flipped to May, the weather's perfect, everything's rolling, and Prize Picks adds more fun when you're watching your favorite sports. Now, every possession, every at-bat, every shot, every pitch, it all matters, and you're locked in from start to finish with Prize Picks. You're not just watching anymore. You got a little juice on it, and there's a chance you could cash in too. The best part about Prize Picks is it's easy. You don't need to do any kind of complicated deep dives or anything like that. You're just picking more or less on player stats. That's it. Points, rebounds, hits, strikeouts, whatever you're already watching. You just build your lineup, submit it, and you're good. It takes about 60 seconds to build a lineup. And you got options everywhere as well. That's the good thing about Prize Picks. Lets you pick multiple sports or stick with one. So basketball, baseball, hockey, golf, ride one out or mix it up. It doesn't matter. We had a rough day yesterday, so today we're looking to rebound first. We're taking Bryce Harper to have more than half a hit. He eats like a lot of good hitters, eats when he's playing at Colorado. Has a .339 batting average at Coors Field. We're also jumping into some WNBA action this weekend, taking Paige Beckers to have more than 14.5 points against Indiana. She averages 21.5 when playing the Fever. And on the flip side of that, we're taking Caitlin Clark to have more than 19.5 points. She'll look for a hot start when she played limited minutes in the preseason against Dallas, and she racked up 21 points. That's it. That's the play for today. Trust your gut, lock it in, and now every single moment actually means something. Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including right here in the great state of Texas. So if you haven't jumped in, now is the time. Just download the Prize Picks app, use the code HMA, play $5, and they'll give you $50 in lineups instantly. Again, download the Prize Picks app, use the code HMA, 5 get you 50. It's that simple. And as always, play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks. All right, I wanted to get to this because this is interesting. Okay, Hookham asked a question. So if you could add one out of the portal possibilities that Texas almost got, who would you pick?
Woo!
From Florida, the Michigan offensive lineman, Isaac Brown, or Christian Allegro, the linebacker from Wisconsin who went to Ohio State. Bobby, I'll start with you. Of the misses Texas had, who would you get? And I'll be honest, to me, the answer is Jaden Woods, and I don't know that there's a close second.
Here's why you say that, too, is Texas got a tackle and a guard out of the portal. Texas got 2 running backs to make up for Isaac Brown, the running back from Louisville. Texas got Rasheem Biles at linebacker. They didn't get an edge, a pass rusher out of the portal. And that's why I think you say that, and I don't think the answer is a close second. Now, I would tell you this. I think that Isaac Brown is a better running back prospect than Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers. By how much, I think is questionable, but I do think that he's a little bit different. I think he could run inside better than either Brown or Smothers, and I still think he has the home run ability. So I would pick of that group. It initially probably, and to be fair, it initially probably would have been the Michigan OL because it was a combo. It was two of them, but Texas ended up with Siani and Lawrence Seymour. So I'm okay with that. It's the Florida defensive end that I'd circle.
What about you, Marcus? What say you?
I mean, I think that I think you both, the Woods is the right answer. Largely from a pure talent standpoint, right? Like he's a guy that would be, in the conversation for one of the top players at his position when it's time for him to come out. The only reason I would maybe consider one of the Michigan O linemen is if you could guarantee me they were going to be healthy in the spring and get to go through all the reps, right? Because it would just be one other question mark. Like, to some degree, I feel like even though you didn't get Woods, Muschamp will have an answer for that. There's enough there to choose from on the other side of Colin Simmons. I would have liked to have maybe just, one more to feel a little bit better about the offensive line. I think that it's going to all work itself out. I think, again, we've talked a lot about like kind of the sum of the other parts, I think, playing a big role in what ultimately the offensive line is going to end up shaping up to be by the time it's game one. But I think Woods is the right answer. The only reason I would potentially take a counter position to that is just I would maybe feel a little bit better if there was one more O-line in the mix.
To me, the ideal O-line take, Bobby, would have been Dylan Sikorsky with a few more skins on the wall, because you got a guy that could play guard or center. Just, I think it was a little over 400 snaps, almost 450 snaps he had at Oregon State, and that's it. So maybe it's a little more proven commodity at that center guard spot.
I'm fine with that. I think that, we just did the sideline debate. We put it up on the website, the written version of it. And, Texas, I wrote that if we had to go back to the portal right now, what would I choose for them to go back for? And it is center guard.
Yeah.
And I say this with all due respect to Connor Robertson, really good player, passable. Is he likely an NFL guy though? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right. And so Texas has NFL guys everywhere else. Why not try to get an NFL guy at center? So, and or left guard. And so that's I'm in the same category as that interior, the left side of the interior, because I really don't have any doubt that Melvin Siani, Brandon Baker, and Trevor Gooseby are eventually going to play in the NFL. I really don't.
Yeah.
People are asking me, really, you think that about Brandon Baker? Yeah, I absolutely do, based on what I've seen. So that's good enough. Does it mean they're going to be a great offensive line? No. But so then you have two other spots. What do those two other spots look like?
All right, good stuff, Bobby. Let's get to this question from Nathaniel and go kind of big picture SEC. A lot of SEC coaching changes this past season. Daniel asks, who is the SEC coach that is on the hot seat heading into this year? Bobby, my initial gut reaction was, right or wrong, man, if Brent Venables loses a game against Texas again, the seat's – I don't know if he's going to get fired. That seat's going to be red hot.
Venables?
I mean, it might be the only one. Everybody, because I'm trying to think. I mean, everybody else for the most part, I would have said DeBoer before he got the extension. I don't think they paid him all that to fire him after this year and owe him all that bread.
I agree with that. Shane Beamer at South Carolina is absolutely
okay. South Carolina, that's fair.
Yeah, he's got to win. I'll tell you the one that's sneaky on it is Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Because they have spent a ton on NIL without the results. Yeah. I mean, they got boat raced up in Columbus the one time they made it to the playoffs. And as far as Venables, I mean, what's the difference between Venables' record against Texas and Mike Elko's? Not a whole bunch. I mean, Elko's 0-2, and what's Venables 1-3. I think those are the ones. I think Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. This is year 3 for him. If he doesn't have some level of a some level of a breakthrough, make a bowl game, etc., he could be going home. Those are the ones I would think.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought on the Elko thing, Bobby. The only thing I would say was he doesn't have the 2 losing seasons.
No, you're right. I mean, look, I'm talking about from a Texas perspective.
Right.
I mean, I think Brent Venables is too. I will say this: I will be shocked if OU doesn't have a top 10 defense this year. Like, shocked.
Agreed.
That's how good I think they could be on defense. Their offense is a different story.
Yeah.
But they have tremendous guys up front, in my opinion. And Jerry, who said it this morning it was one of our, I think it was Coach Shipley said defense travels. And defense travels. That's how they went on the road and beat Alabama.
Yeah, that's how they went on the road and beat Tennessee, because Mateer, after the injury, Mateer was not good last year.
No, he threw it to the other team.
Way too much.
It felt like a lot.
All right, guys, we'll get back to the questions here in just a minute, but want to give a shout out to another one of our sponsors here on the Friday live stream. That's our friends over at Hayes City Store. Love me some Hayes City Store. There are very few restaurants. And once you go to them, you know right away it's a special place, and Hayes City Store is one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. Their famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, the homemade desserts. It's all good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, tasty margaritas, 13 TVs in the ice house. It makes it the perfect game day setup. They've got that brunch menu that's awesome every Sunday from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog friendly. They got a tree net out there for the kids. So join the folks out at Hayes City Store. Bring your whole crew. For more information, check out their website at hayescitystortx.com. Hayes City Store. It's uniquely Texas. And big shout out to Travis and Tamara. They've got their location in Buda, downtown Buda, Taste on Main. Excellent location also. Bobby, didn't you head out there recently?
I was out. Me and Jenny went out on Tuesday, and I had the blackened pork chop. Yes, I saw Marcus's eyebrows went up.
You had me at hello. Yeah, I could handle a blackened pork chop.
I think don't forget Mother's Day this weekend too, guys. So Taste on Main would be great for Mother's Day.
Absolutely. Whether it's Hayes City Store or Taste on Main, I love what Travis and the crew are doing out in Driftwood and in Buda. All right, let's get back to the questions. We've got a couple more. I do kind of like this one actually. Where was it? Yes, there it is. Another Nathaniel question. Nathaniel Matthews lining these up, so you're getting it done today. Breakout player on offense and defense in 26. That is not a transfer.
Okay.
Not a transfer.
This is easy for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got 2 off the top. Go ahead, Bob.
Mine's Zena Mosley. Yep, that's who I'm going with. Breakout player. What do you got, Marcus?
I mean, offense. I was going with Jermaine Bishop because I felt like that was kind of low hanging fruit. And then defensively, I guess I'm kind of being overly biased here, but I was going with Ty Anthony Smith. I feel like he kind of had a baby breakout towards the end of the season. And
Agreed.
He's kind of, I wouldn't say he's the forgotten man, but next to Biles, next to everybody else that's been brought in and the guys that are already there, I think he has the ability to maybe be a star.
So I just want to say this: Marcus is the only one on here allowed to call a 6'1", 225-pound linebacker, starting linebacker in the SEC, a baby breakout. By the way,
I just meant at the end of the season, not his stature, I know his mom's in the chat sometimes. No disrespect. I just mean towards the end of the year, he got more of the reps, and especially in the bowl, right? He really flashed when given the opportunity to fully take it on. So.
I was trying, Marcus, to get you in trouble with Mom. That's what I tried.
Nah, never that.
Mine
never
on
that.
offense, isn't it time for Nick Townsend or Amari Winston? Because you mentioned, Marcus, end of year for Ty Anthony Smith. Nick Townsend started coming on, started being used more as the year went on too. So could be a lot of guys, but mine on defense is Zena.
Bobby, you tell me if I've got guys, because I always, anytime we get this question, I'm like, okay, well, what's your definition of a breakout player? Like a guy that we haven't seen yet, or a guy that we talk about here in the market, but the national media doesn't really talk about. Like Derek Williams, I think Derek Williams could break out, rebound, bounce back, whatever. If he can get back to the pre-injury form, then that's a pretty good 1-2 punch at safety with Jelani McDonald. And you brought him up earlier, Bobby. Can I go Brandon Baker on offense? Because the penalties were what they were, but I thought he got better as the year went on last year. And I think the move inside to guard, I think it's going to really help him. I think he's going to have a terrific year at guard. So I would say Derek Williams and Brandon Baker would be my two.
I like them. I will say that, to your point, like there's different terminologies. If you had, like in the NBA and NFL, they have comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
That's Derek Williams. He would be more comeback player of the year, right? Because he started and flashed so well as a true freshman. I like Brandon Baker, though, especially in new position. And he did have a lot of penalties last year, but that's at a stretch position for him as what was a true sophomore campaign. So I like him. I said this earlier. I think he's going to play in the NFL, and I think he can play guard for Texas.
Vince Young was the NFL comeback player of the year. So shout out to the GOAT anytime I can mention Vince Young. It's a good depth. Got a super chat, guys. Sugar Poppy Chulo has a super chat. Who's this year's Ryan Niblett, a player that we haven't talked about much, but will come up big by season's end? Bobby, in the transfer portal era, it's getting harder to find these guys. Like I don't know as we go forward with this, the way rosters are being built. I don't know that we'll get a guy like Ryan Niblett or that we'll get a guy like John Harris, who had a pretty nondescript couple years and then boom, has a 1,000-yard season. Like those guys are going to be harder and harder to come by.
What do you think, Marcus? What do you think of a guy like Justin Cryer, linebacker, that is probably going to see some, or Brad Spence? Brad Spence did not see much time last year.
Yeah, he didn't see much time, but there's always kind of just at least been a little of the buzz of like I'm trying to think, like Niblett was almost like out of nowhere to a degree, because early in the year, right? Like we were still worried, like, man, is he gonna field a punt? You know what? Like I was a little like, kind of like what's going on back there. And then, it was like the light came on. So I'm trying to think of someone like from the offensive standpoint, I don't really think there's gonna be anybody that will emerge that can overtake kind of the names that are really slotted in there. Defensively, I know he's picked up a decent amount of buzz, but just in terms of like the full-on, like repeated on-field production, Kobe Black kind of fits it a little bit for me. I think, by season's end, if he's able to carry on that momentum throughout the summer and into the fall camp, he could be a guy. And as much as we keep kind of talking about like who other than, Colin is going to get to the passer, what if Vasek puts together a healthy season? That'd be interesting to see what he's able to do. So he could maybe be the one that, we were always just saying like, man, if he stays healthy and what if this is the year he doesn't? I
love that one. I love the last one. I changed my pick. I don't know who I thought I was going to be before, but I go with Marcus.
He's been injured too, but another one, and I mentioned this because CJ Vogel posted some team notes over on TexasFootball.com a little bit ago. Xavier Filsaime started working out with Bernard Blake, and Bam trained Michael Taff and Janae Barron and Adrian Makuba. Filsaime, I think Marcus kind of fits that bill of a guy that we have because he's been injured. Like, haven't really thought about him in a minute. We talked about safety, what is there behind Jelani McDonald and even Derek Williams. Like, if he ended up having a big year, I think that would be pretty much the standard definition of breakout player.
Yeah, he's a personal favorite of mine. I went to high school with his mom and aunt. So I
Really?
tend to, kind of on the side, I'll reach out to her from time to time, see how they're doing and stuff. But yeah, he absolutely would be. And it would perfectly fit even to that discussion y'all were having over on Texas Football about, if there was somebody you could potentially go and get out of the portal. It wasn't necessarily a miss, but if there was a spring window, right? I know a number of the guys are kind of pointing to safety. Well, it would be great if you had somebody else that really stepped up big in that way. And so, as my own personal bias, I would love it if it was Filson.
I didn't know his mom was from Pflugerville, Austin area.
Yep.
I did not know that. That would have been better to know during the recruiting process, Marcus.
I'm trying to remember when. I don't know when. You lose track of people. Immediately after high school. So I don't know when she made her way to the Dallas area.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is mom.
Very good.
You're on mute, Jeff.
In the spirit of Blake Monroe, I muted myself. So
there we go.
Never mind what I was going to say. It doesn't matter anymore. Hey, Bobby, one more time. Let's thank our lead sponsor for the Friday afternoon live stream. That's our friends over at Garage Beer.
We can do it. This is beer the way it should be. Cold, crisp, easy. Garage Beer. No gimmicks. There's Garage Beer Light and Lime with 95 calories, 3 carbs, and only 4% ABV. It is beer-flavored beer. Again, that is Garage Beer Light and Lime. The Kelseys drink it. You should too. Just when you do, enjoy responsibly. Again, that's Garage Beer. The garage is always open.
Thank you, Bobby. I don't know if Josie is still in the chat, but he's always the first one to remind me when I get muted. So shout out to Josie if he's still in here. Hey, guys, a couple things before we wrap this up. Texas baseball and softball tonight. Baseball in Knoxville against Tennessee. Probably a lot of runs going to be scored at one of the most hitter-friendly parks in the SEC. And, guys, it's Georgia. Mike White's softball team is playing in the SEC semifinals. Not Oklahoma. Georgia pulling the upset last night. So Texas in the SEC semifinals. Baseball still very much alive to win an SEC regular season championship. Marcus, I'll start with you. Any thoughts on baseball, softball, or anything else going on the 40?
You mentioned it, softball, man. You take down OU in the way that they did. I think I saw at one point they were down like 5-0, and next thing I knew it was like 10-5 or something like that. So certainly would be, challenging to kind of carry that kind of momentum, but at the same time, you get hot and you get rolling. So certainly would be great for the, Mike White and the ladies if they're able to, get back into the championship game. So that's probably where I'm thinking the most right now. And then, like I said, heading into the weekend, congrats to all the graduates out there for sure. Happy Mother's Day. I wish Mrs. Burton a happy Mother's Day, and I didn't say anything about my mom and girlfriend. So hopefully if they're watching, happy Mother's Day. Love y'all. Don't fight me. I got you covered. And yeah, that's all I got heading into the weekend, man.
I talked to someone that was in Knoxville today with the team, and weather there's 60s and beautiful, they said.
Perfect.
So it will likely be a hitter's park today. Then also to Marcus's point about the graduates and all the new alums that UT is going to mint coming in the next coming days or whatever. Colt McCoy will be giving the commencement speech at the University of Texas tomorrow. Something to keep in mind there as well.
Yeah, Marcus, the one thing I love whenever Texas, they usually send this out, hey, the commencement list, this is everybody that's graduating either, maybe they're walking in the spring and they're finishing up the summer. But guys like Malcolm Brown, you can lead Texas as an All-American and first-round draft pick, and then you come back and finish up your degree and get that T ring, Marcus. We talked about it a few live streams ago. You've got rings, but the one that you continually wear is that T ring. You got a letter and you got to graduate to get that one. So not everybody that suits up for the Longhorns on a gridiron gets one of those. So hey, football, whatever sport it is, shout out to everybody. Even if you're not involved in athletics, if you're graduating from the 40 acres or anywhere this weekend, congratulations on getting that degree. They can't take it from you. So congratulations to everybody. All right. That is Bobby, Marcus. Unless you guys have any final thoughts, that's going to wrap it up. You guys got anything else?
No, just enjoy yourself this weekend. Happy Mother's Day, like everybody said. I would add a couple things. We have some good content coming up this weekend. We're going to continue that sideline debate we talked about on the on the site today. If you had the portal and could use it in the spring, what position would you choose to use it on? And the reason we thought that question was important to answer is because it kind of shows or tells where we think Texas may be thinner on the roster than maybe some other people do. So keep an eye on that. Then we also do we're also doing a preview of where we think Texas will finish this year. And I gotta give you a hint. I'm pretty optimistic about the Longhorns' chances, but we did a roundtable on that today as well. Or not today, but we're doing a roundtable for that this weekend.
Come for Bobby's prediction. Stick around for mine. So I'll just throw that out as a little.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I'll piggyback off Marcus. Happy early Mother's Day to my mom and my wife, who is in the other room and can probably hear me right now. So don't want to hear it when I'm done with the stream. So happy Mother's Day. Hey, Marcus, Bobby, thank you guys for the knowledge, the intel, the expertise, as always. Huge shout out to Matthew behind the scenes, the MVP of On Texas Football, for producing it, doing a great job, as he always does. Bobby mentioned the website. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you still have a chance to get over to the site and take advantage of our spring sale. Just use the promo code OTFOG when you sign up and become an OTFOG and get 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. Make sure before we're done that you hit that like button, that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel, and that you've got those notifications set. That way, anytime we go live or drop a video, you're not missing any of our Longhorn coverage or breaking news here on the channel. Everybody be safe. Have a good weekend. And here on the channel, in terms of our lives, we'll get you Sunday night and then again bright and early for coffee and football first thing Monday morning. So for Marcus, for Bobby, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, and for everybody to have a happy, healthy, safe Mother's Day weekend, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time,
Okay.